In 2006, we did something strange. We took a world that had been a planet for 76 years, and we erased it. We crossed it off the map. We called it a dwarf, a dead chip of ice, a piece of frozen debris drifting in the dark where nothing ever happens. Then we turned away. But the thing we discarded never stopped moving. It never stopped bleeding red into the black. And when we finally sent a machine more than 3 billion miles into that darkness to take one last look at the world we threw away, what stared back was not a corpse. It was floating mountains, taller than anything on Earth, a sky that snows blood, and a vast pale heart beating with frozen poison. This is Pluto. And it is far more alive than the rock we abandoned. To reach it, you would travel for almost a decade, more than 30,000 miles an hour, every hour, for 9.5 years. And as you go, the sun dies behind you. It does not set, it simply shrinks from the blazing furnace that built every living thing into a single cold point of light, lost among the other stars. By the time you arrive, the light is hundreds of times fainter than the gloom of an overcast afternoon. Stand on the surface, look up at noon. There is no blue sky. There is only a black ceiling and a permanent freezing twilight that has held for billions of years. In the summer of 2015, our camera finally broke through the dark, and there, stretched across the equator, was a shape we recognized instantly. A heart, pale, smooth, luminous against the shadow. The headlines called it adorable, a Valentine from the edge of the solar system. The scientist looking at the data felt something colder. That heart is not a symbol of love. It is a wound, an ancient basin, 600 miles across, filled to the brim with a slow, churning sea of frozen poison. They named the left half Sputnik Planitia, a glacier the size of a continent, made not of water, but of solid nitrogen, methane, and carbon monoxide. Ices that on Earth could only ever exist as gas. Here, they lie in a frozen ocean. And this ocean is not still. Deep in Pluto's core, a faint trace of radioactive heat still smolders, the last warmth of a world that should have died long ago. That heat creeps upward. It turns the frozen nitrogen over, slowly, endlessly, the way the surface of a cooling soup folds in on itself. Watch that surface long enough, and you understand what it does. It swallows anything that falls onto the sea. Any asteroid, any wandering rock is dragged under, folded into the ice, and smoothed away. No craters survive here, no scars, no history. The poison sea erases everything that touches it. It looks new. It is anything but. Walk to the edge of that sea, and the true scale of this place rises in front of you. Mountains, thousands of feet of them, black against the black sky. On Earth, mountains are stone. On Pluto, stone is meaningless. The surface sits near minus 390 degrees. At that cold, ordinary water, ice stops behaving like ice at all. It becomes hard as bedrock, hard as steel. So these peaks, jagged, sharp, some of them rivaling the Rockies, are not rock. They are mountains of frozen water, carved by a cold so deep it turns water into stone. And they do something stone could never do. Water ice is lighter than frozen nitrogen. So these mountains do not stand on solid ground. They float. They break off the shoreline and drift across the poisoned plain. icebergs the size of mountain ranges, sailing in perfect, silent slow motion through the dark. Picture it, a range the size of the Alps, drifting towards you, across a sea of frozen nitrogen, making no sound at all. And look closer at the snow on those peaks. It is not white, it is dark, rust-colored, red. When the faint ultraviolet light from the distant sun touches the methane in Pluto's air, it tears the molecule apart and rebuilds it into something heavier. Complex organic compounds called tholins. They drizzle down out of the sky. A slow and endless red dust, staining the ice the color of dried blood. A world of floating glass mountains, powdered in red in the dark. For a long time, we assumed Pluto was solid all the way down, frozen rock, top to bottom. But the math refuses to agree. That enormous weight of nitrogen sitting in the heart should have thrown the whole world off balance. Tipped it over millions of years ago. It didn't. Something heavy is hiding underneath, holding it steady. A counterweight, buried in the dark. The best explanation is the one that unsettles scientists the most. Beneath the frozen shell, kept liquid by crushing pressure and that last whisper of inner heat. There may be an ocean, a sea of liquid water, lightless, sealed under miles of ice, at the coldest edge of everything we know. And where there is liquid water, one question always follows. We can't help it. We have to ask it. Is anything down there? We don't know. We may never know. As our spacecraft fell away into the deeper dark, it turned one last time to look back. And it caught Pluto crossing in front of the sun. A black silhouette, wrapped in a thin glowing band of pale blue. Pluto has a blue sky, a single breath of beauty, handed to us only as we left it behind. But Pluto does not suffer this exile alone. Bound to it, forever, is Charon, a moon so enormous next to its world that the two do not orbit the way a planet and a moon should. Neither one circles the other. Instead, they both swing around an empty point in the space between them. Two bodies, locked in a slow waltz around nothing. And they are tidally locked, stand on the right side of Pluto, and Charon hangs in the sky, huge and motionless. It never rises. It never sets. It simply hangs there, watching. Walk to the far side of Pluto, and you would never see it at all. An entire world that, from where you stand, does not exist. Charon carries its own scar. Across its north pole spreads a vast dark red stain. They named it Mordor, and it came from Pluto. Methane that leaked out of Pluto's thin air, drifted across the void, and froze onto the pole of its companion. Two outcasts, breathing the same dying breath, holding on to each other at the bottom of the solar system. And around this pair, 4 more moons tumble through the dark. Styx, Nix, Kerberos, Hydra. Tiny, chaotic, spinning end over end with no rhythm at all. Broken splinters of some ancient collision, still falling through the black. The last guards of a frozen kingdom. We took away its name. We called it a dwarf, and we walked away. But Pluto never needed our permission to be a king. It still rules the dark beyond Neptune, a world of red snow, floating mountains, a hidden ocean, and a heart that has not stopped beating in 4 billion years. It owes us nothing. It will keep turning in the silence long after our own sun has burned out and gone cold. And yet, its silence is a kindness. Because if you leave Pluto behind and drift back toward the sun, just a little closer, the quiet ends. It is replaced by a scream, a vast blue giant, where the winds tear along faster than the speed of sound. And somewhere far below the clouds, it rains solid diamonds. But that is a darkness for another night.